Come and discover the story of Uzzah, a man with a very special mission. God entrusted him with the task of guarding a precious treasure, but unfortunately his journey was interrupted by his disobedience to his Creator. This story contains intriguing mysteries, incredible twists, and profound lessons. Discover the tragedy of Uzzah, an iconic narrative from the Bible. Get ready to experience a journey full of surprises that will change your life forever. In this video, we invite you to join us as we embark on an incredibly fascinating journey. There is a very ancient tale that was told in the ancient pages of the Old Testament. This is the story of Uzzah, a man of great bravery who was assigned to guard the Ark of the Lord. Unfortunately, he ended up witnessing a tragic fate. Open your mind and prepare to discover all the details of this incredibly powerful story. Don't miss this opportunity to understand this man's story. The Ark of the Covenant was much more than just a golden box. It symbolized the spiritual relationship between God and his chosen people. In battle and in situations of great importance, it was there to reveal the divine presence to those who watched over it and to the enemies of God's people. The Ark of the Covenant has always been held in due respect and awe by those who venerated it as something holy, and because of its valuable materials, it became yet another representation of the heavenly connection. There were some elements inside the Ark that served as real proof of God's power, goodness, and miracles. These were the tablets of the 10 Commandments, a pot of manna, and a rod of Aaron that budded, which further emphasized the existence of a supreme power. In this way, the Ark was made to convey the message of the power and bond of the people of Israel with God and his promises. But it also served as a warning to enemies, showing that the people of Israel were not alone, but rather accompanied by a very powerful deity. The family of Abinadab had a sacred legacy, a Levitical lineage that was blessed with the honor of caring for the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred treasure. They were the guardians of this relic, but they were also much more. They were the keepers of a spiritual legacy. The sons of the Levites grew up with divine instructions on how to properly transport and care for the Ark. Their commitment to preserving its sacredness was passed down from generation to generation and became a fundamental part of their identity. It was not simply a task of guarding an object, but of protecting the bond between God and his people. The family of Abinadab had an epic responsibility and a legacy that brought them into direct contact with the sacred. After some time stored in Abinadab's residence, the time came for David, now crowned king of Israel, to bring the Ark of the Lord to Jerusalem. This city was then elevated as the religious center of the people. The Ark then began to be transported to Jerusalem. The fervor of the Israelites awakened along the paths leading to the Ark. Children, men, and women gathered in a grand parade, singing hymns of worship. It was not just a transfer of something material, but an encounter with God at every step of this great event. Joy and tremendous emotion infected everyone who witnessed the transportation of the Ark. It was a moment rich with meaning and spiritual connection for the people of Israel. At the most chaotic moment of the crossing, when the journey reached the limit of expectation and concern, a scene of despair unfolded. Everyone turned their eyes to the Ark of the Covenant, a faithful symbol of the divine presence, when at one point the path became difficult. The animals pulling the cart lost their balance, and the Ark, the repository of all the elevated sanctity, threatened to fall. The air was filled with a mute fear. The idea that the Ark could fall and be desecrated overwhelmed everyone. The Ark, a vehicle of infinite power and sanctity, millimeters away from touching the common ground, brought a moment of uncertainty and anxiety to all those present. At the moment of greatest pressure, when the Ark of the Covenant was about to fall, Uzzah, overcome by the impulse to save the sacred object, reached out his hand in an instinctive attempt to protect it. His heart was beating fast, but he did not think for a second before bravely touching the ark to steady it. However, as soon as he touched the ark, Uzzah died suddenly, falling to the ground. The tragedy was immediate, as was the change in the course of this ancient narrative. The silence that followed left everyone confused, because Uzzah had come across something that went beyond his understanding, and in that fateful moment, he met his death. The tragedy involving Uzzah before the Ark of the Covenant was definitely more than an isolated event. It was a call to understand the holiness of God, the opportunity to reflect on the ambiguous relationship between the sacred and humanity. Uzzah's death next to the ark served as a supernatural sign of God's sublimity, something that transcended human understanding, showing the respect required before the divine. The Lord made it clear that none of his people should directly touch the Ark of the Covenant, as the immensity of God's power radiated over it, and human frailty would not be able to withstand this divine power at its maximum level. When he ordered the construction of the ark, God declared that it should be carried using wooden rods coated with gold, which passed through gold rings, and that the latter were in direct contact with the ark. David was deeply saddened and shocked by this great lesson, but he understood the lesson of venerating God's presence even more. He realized the non-negotiable need to worship him with devotion. It was indisputable that the loss of Uzzah was unfortunately inevitable. As God did not punish him, it was not about revenge. However, as much as he was one of his people, Uzzah's body could not withstand the great power of God present in the ark. This painful occasion teaches us all that approaching God requires humility, obedience, and worship. It is a vivid reminder of the greatness of God and the due reverence that should be offered to him. The tragedy of Uzzah is a striking example of how God's infinite love is balanced with his holy justice. The fact that Uzzah was removed from the presence of the Lord has conveyed a message that is valid through the ages. It is a warning to all to honor and reverence God at all times, for only then can we truly understand his divine essence. Our spiritual life requires a balance between obedience to God's commandments and reverent approach to his greatness. An uncompromising approach to his principles is not enough, for it is also essential to understand his infinite mercy and unconditional love. It is necessary to keep in mind that God's holiness cannot be challenged. The story of Uzzah points to this ancient truth. We must have the discernment and humility to see the balance between God's justice and mercy. This message reminds us that without this understanding, our spiritual path can be compromised. Share the precious knowledge of Uzzah's story with those who seek to delve deeper into the connection between man and the sacred. May this meaningful narrative help to open up even deeper discussions and reveal reflections of great importance. Stay up to date with the latest news and teachings from the Bible. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for following us and exploring the mysteries of God's Word. May He continue to bless us all. Until our next meeting,